Hello, it's another Sunday evening, and this is Manifesto Digest. It is provocative, witty, and intense. Here, we gauge the wish list versus the reality, mark the records against the performance indicators, and assess the will and wherewithal to execute on election promises. Good evening and welcome to Joy News, your election headquarters on Multi TV. You're also watching us live on stream.myjoyonline.com. Manifesto Digest is a thought-provoking engagement with political party manifestos. How much of total budget spending has gone into education so far? How much will be needed to sustain the education promises being bandied about? And will the oil revenue be enough to sustain educational funding? You want to stay with us as we find the answers tonight. Remember, you can be part of this by text 1760 or join us on facebook.com/multi-TV-world. You also can stay with us for this analysis. Remember, you can join via text and by WhatsApp also. WhatsApp is 0544 334722. 0544 334722. Manifesto Digest is sponsored by Star Ghana. Now, Imani has called it expensive, an expensive mistake that will simply waste the national purse. Some other civil societies have also lauded it. MPP's audacious policy of free senior high school has been the talk of town for months. Now, suddenly, the NDC took a huge swipe at it to point out that it is a constitutional obligation. Their alternative is to enhance the free education at the basic level and to make SHS education progressively free. The literacy rate, we're told, is dropping. More and more junior high school leavers are failing the BECE. Issues of quality and accessibility stare us in the face. The spotlight tonight is on secondary education in the country. Take a watch.
The issue of education has become topical this year than ever, even more than when the country was faced with the senior high school duration controversy. NPP is promising free SHS, but NDC says, wait a minute, you are only quoting what is captured in the Constitution, which is already mandatory anyway. The electorates appear to be swamped with uncertainty over which education policy to vote for. The arguments of affordability, accessibility, cost and quality have dominated the raging debate. On quality, we are told by the Ghana Education Coalition campaign through some work done this year that Ghana's BECE pass rate has remained at an average of 60% in the past decade, whereas proficiency and numeracy levels in primary schools continue to linger between 30 and 40% during the same period. Of immense relevance is the declining numbers of junior high school graduates entering senior high school in the past decade. Out of 375,000 BECE candidates in 2011, only 202,339 were able to transit into SHS. The huge dropout rate of about 47% is due to economic and academic reasons. Cost is among the casual factors to low enrollments into SHS. The cost of secondary education still remains unaffordable to many Ghanaian families. The current GES-approved termly school fees of 328 Ghana cedis for boarding schools is beyond the reach of many poor families, taking into cognizance the per capita household expenditure, which is $175 incurred on secondary school students. The situation is worsened by the absence of statutory scholarships for needy students who qualify but are unable to afford SHS fees, thereby dropping out in the teeming masses of students who pass the BECE but fail to secure school placements through the CSSPS. The policy direction of the NPP, therefore, is to implement a free senior high school education when given the nod in the December polls. Though not captured in its 2012 manifesto, the NPP has hinted it will build 350 senior high schools to augment the shortfall and address the issue of accessibility, which is a serious problem. An Imani report has challenged NPP's policy by stating clearly that aspects like tuition fees at the SHS level is free, just as it is at the JHS level. Already, a quarter of the national budget annually goes into education, though the GES is unable to tell us outright just how much budgetary allocation they have received from 2004 till date. The NPP SHS policy, Money Ghana content, will cost some $1.4 billion per annum. At present, there are over 400 senior high schools dotted across the country, though not evenly spread. According to the GES statistical data on 2011-2012 academic year, there are 720,000 students in the SHS. The cost of government funding per student is 400 cedis, and when you multiply the two figures, you get 288 million cedis, which is 0.3% of GDP. This is the expenditure expected to graduate to 774 million cedis in 2015-2016 when the free SHS policy is implemented. To address the issue of access, the NDC in 2008 said it will build a minimum of one SHS in each constituency, a promise that is largely unfulfilled, despite having tried to eliminate some schools under trees. The party also wanted to revamp science resource centers in selected SHS and train teachers to man them. This has mainly been done, but not across board. It is difficult to track this promise because the manifesto is unclear which schools the promise targeted. However, in its 2012 manifesto, the NDC's main thrust is at the junior high school level, but will progressively graduate it to the SHS level to make it free and aim to attain universal access by 2016 when voted into power. The party also promises to increase the subsidies currently paid to existing secondary schools with a view to reducing the burden on parents and construct 200 new community-day senior high schools across the country with emphasis on districts where there are no such schools. Quality is also a big issue. The focus has been on the JHS, but at the SHS, a lot of people are still unable to graduate into tertiary level. How do the parties hope to address these nagging issues of affordability, access, quality and cost? Stay tuned as we put the questions to them directly.
Well, my name is Stephen Anti, and this is Manifesto Digest. Tonight, I have with me Madam Elizabeth Ohene, who is former MPP Minister in charge of tertiary education. And then next to her, I have Lee Okran, who is the Honorable Minister for Education. Next to the Honorable Minister is Victoria Ama, who is PPP Director in charge of research. Gentlemen and ladies, you're welcome to PM Express.
Thank you, Stephen.
Honorable Okran, let me start with you.
Yeah.
I need you to tell our audience, me and our audience, what your party's or your government's record in senior high school education is. What did you promise and what have you achieved?
Thank you. But before that, let me correct some few inaccuracies in your promo. There are 401 senior high schools. There are 511 senior high schools. The fees, boarding fees, is not 340, something I said. It is 248.84 pesos. That is official. That is here, right here. So the person got it wrong. What has the government done? When the government took over, the previous government had extended the SHS duration by 1 year without leaving a single classroom. So you have to find places for these people. Classroom and dormitories. And even expand science laboratories. You could remember when parents were complaining their walls were intense and so on. So far, over 300 classrooms have been constructed over the past 3.5 years. It hasn't been an easy task, but well, we've tried to do the best that we can. We have built emergency dormitories that have been commissioned all around the country. You can see them to house the extra 1 year people. But you cannot have secondary school without science laboratory.
Are these fully completed schools that are being manned by qualified teachers?
No, we are not talking about schools. We are talking about expanding those to take the 1 year extra people. Of course, side by side with this, some new schools are being put up. In fact, some community schools, schools that belong to the communities, have been taken over by government because the communities cannot run them, and they have been rehabilitated, putting the proper things there, giving them teachers. But you cannot have secondary school without science laboratories. And since Mr. Harry Sawyer's time, when he had the science resource centers, that was about the 1990s, those science laboratories have not been rehabilitated at all. They are in the state of disrepair. But luckily, since late last year, ITEC, and a British firm that originally did the work.
So how many has your government rehabilitated?
79.
79. You said you would do that in selected senior high schools.
You can't do all at once. You can't do all, really. And God willing, next year you continue with the rest.
So which schools did you target, and what was the criteria of targeting these schools to set up these laboratory expansions? Because
they are in clusters. You use them. You have buses that took people straight. For example, even in Cape Coast, Agri Memorial used to come to Ghana National. Some people from Fansburn had to go to Fansburn, and so on. So they were in clusters, and a lot of them I can't tell you that this area, that area.
So can you give us some names of these schools so that we can authenticate?
Oh, the
Science
science centers.
centers. Well, if I knew, I would have brought a list.
Schools that you have rehabilitated, these laboratories.
If you go to National, they have done it. Okay. If you go to Fansburn, they have done it. I think Wesley Girls has got theirs done. GSTS, schools like that have got. It's something that is going on anyway by ITEC. You can.
But these are top A-class schools.
Yeah, but at A-class school, and you don't have your science lab is in disrepair. What do you do?
So was that the criteria? I mean, you target those ones.
Well, I'm just giving you some few examples. Yeah. But you see, those schools that originally did not have, that was the Harry Sawyer plan, did not have science laboratories, had to travel. That's why they were giving those buses to schools that had. I mean, you arrange with those schools once a week or something like that. You want to have those things, because not all the 511 schools have science laboratories. That's why we are rehabilitating 79. Then you commit to go to those areas. Most schools have been given ICT labs. In fact, about a month ago, I was at Aquinas with the assistance of Vodafone and USA. We commissioned a simultaneous connection of 400 schools in Ghana to the internet simultaneously. So now they can all access the internet. And some other people are picking the bill, So these are some of the things that we have done. Side by side, we are encouraging more people to go to school, graduates to go to the schools and teach. Initially, it was not easy, but with a single spine, sometimes you are sitting in your office and people come, graduates, who want to teach. So it is very encouraging that, you should get people who are well qualified to teach,
So these are some of
the things that you have done.
How would you wish to be marked, based on the promises you made in 2008 and then today?
In the education sector, if you take senior high, as you say, secondary, I think you hit about 75 to 80% that we have done.
75 to 80%.
Yes.
Madam Elizabeth Ohini, you think this is realistic? This is correct? Should we mark the NDC government by 80% based on the promises they made in 2008?
Well, certainly, if they hadn't spent the first few months, first year, just worrying about reverting 4 years to 3 years, they would have realized that there was a plan, a well thought out, costed, and with ready to start plan to quick infrastructure development.
Really?
Yes, yes, it's there on his desk. It was on his desk when we left. Oh, well, you have a look, because that all they
he
were
said that the
interested.
MPP
No, hold on.
did not leave a single classroom.
Hold on. You asked me a question. I'm trying to, you
Right.
asked me about that. So I'm telling you that if they hadn't, because all they were concerned about was to revert 4 years to 3 years. And it was one of the things that I never quite understood, because, you know, the then Honorable, their first Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Tetenyo, he was a member of the implementation committee of the educational reforms. He was a member. He attended every meeting. He supported the extending the thing to 4 years. So it was one of the wonders for me that there, as soon as he stopped attending those meetings and the NDC won the election, suddenly all he wanted to do was revert to 3 years.
And he superintended the reversion.
Yes,
It means he didn't buy into it in the first instance.
I don't, well, he was certainly, I'm telling you that he was a member of the implementation committee. And he certainly never said that he didn't endorse it. He supported the bill in Parliament. He did. Anyway, but so they stopped the project that was about to take off. And because of that, then suddenly, like was it May or June 2009, they suddenly panicked and realized that they had, you know, they hadn't built the things. And you remember there was all that chaos, as the Honorable Minister said, with people living in tents and all that. So, well, I can't say that I have done a proper audit on the
achievements
on the senior high schools that there are.
Okay.
I have seen some. I have been to a place where I have seen. It says schools under trees. You know, it looks like everything in education now goes under schools under trees, because I saw in some. You know, when they start a project, the contractor puts up a notice saying schools, whatever he is doing. And it says schools under trees. And they are building a dining hall for a senior high school. And it's under schools under trees. And I was thinking, I thought the schools under trees, they were doing it for basic schools.
The dining halls on the trees?
Exactly. But it's there, it's in my village, my town. It's there. Schools under trees. And that's what they are doing, building a dining hall. It's very welcome for our senior high school. I welcome it, but I'm telling you that it's just the kind of, it's not gerrymandering, the kind of inventive accounting that they are doing, putting projects under, you know, how can you say that? But anyway, as I said, I have not made a proper, I have not
so
made any.
So you can't say
so
that 80% or 70% is
90%
a true reflection.
Or 100%. I'm surprised that he hasn't given himself.
So tell me, Madam, the MPP was in power for 8 years.
Yeah.
Tell me what you achieved in terms of senior high school education.
You remember that we started a program of the upgrading of senior high schools and model schools. Under that project, there was 31 of them, and the aim was to do one in every district. But we started with HIPIC money. And the schools that have been upgraded, the 31 that have been upgraded, they speak for themselves. And then there was the second phase was another 25.
Which ones are these? Can you remember a couple?
Oh, well, in Accra here, what do you call it? Odogono. You can see it for yourself. The one, Ganata, near Dodowa, you can see it for yourself. In the Volta region, there were 4, Adidome, Karachi, KJB, it's all over Shama. There are some favorite ones of mine that I know, but they've been upgraded and they now look like proper senior high schools. Then in the second batch was these 25 other schools that were being done with help from the ADB. Now we hadn't quite finished those when we lost power. So I don't know whether, because not all the 25, that extra 25 had been completed. So I don't know if that has been completed. But definitely, you saw where we were going. Expand access, give particularly science laboratories. Because, you know, schools, every school should have a science lab. This idea of people commuting and such, it just really doesn't work. Because if a school has only one day in a week to do science, often it means that it is only the school that has it. That really, sometimes they get the bus has broken down, so they are not able to go.
But the NDC in the 2008 manifesto says the MPP has been able to establish only 19 senior secondary schools between 2001 and 2008. The shortfall is generating intense pressure on existing senior high school facilities.
I was just telling you about expanding access. If you expand access, it means that you have built extra classrooms, you have built extra science laboratories, you've built extra dormitories. That's what you do. And many times, it's much better to do that than to attempt to start building a new one, because many of the schools that these community secondary schools...
So indeed you built 19 new ones, right?
That must be what they are referring to. That must
and
be
then
the
you expanded, you know, a lot more.
Yeah.
Upgraded 31 model schools.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So how do you want to be marked?
How do we want to be marked? Well, you know, I hesitate about giving marks to myself or to marks to things that I have done. But I can...
Why so?
Oh, because I leave these things to be judged by the people who were the beneficiaries. People who went to school there, people in whose towns these things were done. I think they are better placed to mark them. So, you know, I think I'll leave it to them.
Right.
Yeah, I'll leave it to people who go to Odogono now to mark what the transformation that has happened with them. I'll leave it to people in Shama. I'll leave it to people in Kajebi. I'll leave it to people in Adidoben. I'll leave it to what is my favorite one in Kumasi called? I think it's Anglican.
I don't know.
Senior high school. That I'll leave that for them to judge.
Honorable Okran, you wanted a reaction. You wanted to react to something she said.
Yes. You see, some of these models who call model schools. In my constituency, Half-Past Secondary School was chosen as one of the models. The only thing they did was a platform.
Which platform?
Foundation platform.
What do you mean? Okay.
That's all.
Well, it was part of the 31?
I don't know which one you count, but they came, made a lot of noise. Sent a contractor. He did it. The platform is still there. The platform is still there. A platform.
So, Mother, you are not able to tell us if Half-Past was part of the 31.
No.
Was there a particular criteria which made you say
the
31?
The president
was First target 31.
The problem says, this is one of the model schools in the Western. There was a lot of noise.
31.
They went and cut a song. It's a platform. It is there.
Mr. Enti, you are not. You are a journalist.
Yes.
You've been around this country. I'm mentioning the one that is probably nearest to this studio, which is Odogono. You can go there. You can see what was done. That was the kind of thing that was done at least in all 31. Those I can testify to. I'm saying that then the second half...
19 only.
Well, no.
19.
No.
You have
31. Then the second half of it was the extra 25, which were being funded with help from ADB. As I said, those were not completed. So I don't know whether
next time I'm going, I'll take you along.
Yes, exactly. Right, so Victoria, you've heard the NDC and the MPP coming from the PPP. What are your own alternatives to senior high school education?
Thank you, Stephen.
Alternatives?
You
haven't asked us about
alternative. You are asking about
because I can't ask her what she has achieved.
So
I'm asking what alternatives she has to all the things the two of you, whilst you were in government, have achieved.
Okay.
Maybe I should be assessing them first, if that is fine.
Right, so what's your assessment?
Then we all go into the alternatives so that we have a fair playing ground, if that is fine by you. Okay, good. Starting with the NDC, the minister is mentioning 300 classrooms. He mentioned 79 rehabilitated science resource centers. Number one.
Yeah, still ongoing. Yeah,
Still ongoing, that is fine. We want to know where are these things happening, then you are able to check. If you don't know where they are happening, we're all throwing figures out every day once we are on media. And so when we know where these things are happening, then we are able to check. Then we are able to tell that indeed 300 classrooms have been put up. Now, when we put up 300 classrooms and we are putting up 79 science resource centers, we are asking ourselves, since 1992 up to today, is that the best we can do? 79 resource centers? Is that the best we can do? That's the first thing we want to ask ourselves. Now again, we want to ask ourselves, how is that?
You want to react to something before she continues,
We are talking of what has been there recently. You are not talking of 1992.
We're limiting our discussions to
2008
through to 2012. So, I mean, from 1992, when the Constitution kicked in, a lot has gone on. I think that we can spend the whole day trying to recap what has been done and what has not been done.
Okay, so 79 is what has been done. My point is, it is not that 79 science resource centers have been constructed. That is where I'm coming from. It has been rehabilitated. So that's why I'm asking myself, that is that how much we can do?
Okay.
Because we are not if we are talking about constructing, then I'm saying that, okay, we've constructed 79 in 4 years or 3 and, I mean, it's almost 4 years now. But it is rehabilitation. And there still are schools that need science resource centers. And so that's why I'm asking the question that, till now, is that the best we can do? If it is the best we can do, then let's tell the Ghanaians that that is the best we can do. That's what I'm talking about. Now, when we say 31 schools have been, we've expanded access in 31 schools, what is it that we have added? Classrooms, dormitories, what?
Dormitories.
How does that?
Administration blocks.
Everything.
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 Everything that goes to make a school.
Yes, I am asking that question for a reason. We can add a classroom, and that can only augment the student size by, say, 50. And we can comfortably say that we have expanded access.
No.
Number two, I'd like to find out, how does all that...
Are these questions you're asking premised on your party's alternatives? Or that, I mean, because I reckon that when you ask those questions, you are you're identifying loopholes in, in the things that they claim to have achieved.
Of course.
But what are you bringing on board?
What am I bringing on board? This is what we are saying, that free education must actually start from kindergarten through to senior high school. Lifting a certain SHS in the middle is not the way to go. Saying that we want to expand access, which we have been doing for all this while till now, is not the way to go. Providing quality education must start from kindergarten through to SHS. Now, when you do this, you're not just providing free education, expecting people to come. Expecting, of course, expecting people to come without making provision for where the people are going to stay. You make provision from where the people are going to stay, and as well, you make provision for who is going to impact the knowledge. When the Honorable Minister was talking, he said he's glad that these few days, a lot of graduates come to his office. They want to teach because single spine is quite well. Now you want to ask yourself, are those people eager to teach because they are enjoying teaching profession? Or are they hungry? Are they depressed? Because look, you speak to many teachers and you ask them, really, why are you into teaching? You get no more than 25% telling you that I have come into this profession because I like it, I enjoy it, I want to impact knowledge. No. And so it is not enough to say graduates are running because, you know, the reward is fine. You want to make sure that the people who are impacting knowledge are proud of what they are doing.
So one, your party's position is, you know, free education must start from kindergarten.
Kindergarten through to SHS. Then, say again.
No.
Well,
education is free now.
That
from
is
kindergarten to GHS.
Yes.
It is free.
It is free. Yeah. It is supposed to be free.
But the free is the free working. That's the
That's
thing.
what I'm saying. It is supposed.
Does the free work?
It is supposed to be free. It is supposed to be free.
But is it working?
But
is
we want to
really
ask
free?
we want to ask ourselves if it is free. If you are a parent and you have your child in a public school, you really want to find out if it is really free. After you pay all the PTA and all that, you ask yourself, yes, the Constitution makes provision that it should be free. We are trumpeting that it is free. We want to find out if really it is free. What we are saying is that, yes, what the 1992 Constitution provides takes basic education up to the GSS level. We want to move it from GSS level to SSS. Number two, get the teachers that are qualified to impact knowledge. Do not make it such that people who are depressed, people who think that there is nothing really going on, I need to teach, should be the ones teaching. Now, when you take a country like Korea, you go to Korea, you realize that before you can even teach in an elementary school, you need a teacher's university degree certificate. What is it that is preventing us from upgrading our teacher training colleges into universities? Because this is what you find out. You find out that the teacher who has the passion to teach, who is willing to teach, who is impacting the knowledge, having taught for a few years, wants to go for study leave. The teacher goes out for study leave. If he's not able to get it online and he goes out of the classroom, who is holding the fort?
Victoria, how do we know that when you have the money?
Exactly. Can we allow him to ask his question?
I'm asking you, how do we know that when you have the mandate, you can deliver on the promises that you make in your education commitments?
Okay.
You haven't been in power. Did you try to do anything to shape education whilst you were out of, whilst you were not?
Whilst we were out of power?
Well, yeah. Whilst you were not in
we have never been in power, so on the fringe.
You can't do anything to shape education.
No.
Maybe direct policy.
Whatever we do.
Or make suggestions to shape policy.
Whatever we do outside power to shape education will just be a little drop in a big ocean somewhere there. That is one thing you must know, because we need a key policy that can affect. You need to be in that key role playing ground to be able to affect everything that you are doing. So when you are outside, you can only make suggestions. You can only tell people that this is what I think. You can only say that this is the way it should go.
So how do we know you can deliver?
They decide whether they want to take it or not. Now, how do you know that we can deliver? We have said that, look, there is a certain record that we have as individuals. You take a flag bearer. He has been in government. He's been given an assignment to perform. He has performed his assignment to the best of his abilities. So we say, look at his track record when he was in government. Fortunately, the flag bearers of the other political parties who I'm sharing this platform with were also in government. Let the Ghanaian people check their track record as well and see if who is more capable of delivering. So it's an issue of who is the arrowhead.
I'll move this discussion a bit forward. Now, she mentioned quality. Your party in 2008 said that you were committed to quality education. Is this something you can tell me that you have attained? You came to revert the 4 years to 3 years. Yes. You think that has improved the quality?
Just reducing the year does not mean quality, but quality is how the level
but the reversion was done against the backdrop of improving quality.
No,
was it not? Why was it done? Why did you revert?
You said cost. That's what I heard.
You see, first of all, the Anamwa Mensan report did not anywhere state that you should go to you should extend it by 1 year. What the report said was that the 3 years is now provided certain criteria were met, certain things were provided. That is what he said. But this competition is starting modeling here and there. Let me tell you what the education sector is facing now. We have only 73% of Ghanaian children in school. That is what Ghanaians maybe don't know. So 27% are not in school at all for various reasons. One, maybe there are no schools in the areas where they find themselves. Two, for cultural reasons, the parents even don't want to send them to school. Three, some of them are not interested even in going to school. The Constitution mandates that we send everybody to school. So in areas where there are no schools, we have to put up schools to let the children go to school. assuming you have 100% children going to primary, by the time they reach JHS, 30% drop out. Because there are no JHS in those areas. So people terminate at primary school level. You understand? Then those who will get to the JSS complete, because of inadequate vacancies in senior high schools, only 63% or so, 46 or so percent don't get to school, those schools. So what do? First, you have to start from the foundation and provide the schools for people to go.
So you provided the schools.
I say you have still not finished providing the schools.
So what about quality? I'm talking about quality.
Yes,
I mean,
but that's, you have to start.
To improve the quality
you have to
so
start.
far?
Let me finish.
Yeah.
When you have provided the school, you need a teacher. The teacher is the most important in the education. The classroom is important. The teacher, you must have full complement of textbook coverage. We don't have in Ghana. Therefore, we need to sort out these problems. The teachers, we are talking of quality teacher. We have 38 colleges of education. They were used to be called training colleges. Under the Education Act, they are now colleges of education. They are diploma awarding people. You take 9,000 per annum. It's inadequate. It's not.
So
adequate.
you are working on the quality issue.
Yes.
You haven't finished.
It's a quality. When you have quality teachers, they will train better. The second thing is supervision. Under the Education Act, you have now inspectorate board. They are supposed to go and make sure that the teacher stays in school. The teacher doesn't come to some Atlantic school, put up 2 sentences on the board, and disappear. Tell me. I'm telling you.
But we've known
what
all
I mean.
these problems.
Yes, but
we've
you
known
don't.
the problems several years.
Yes, but you have
What
to solve the
have you
problem.
done to solve the problem?
So we are improving this by creating. Look, that's why the act was passed, so that we have more people. He's laughing. You don't come. You see, because you haven't been in government before, you think it's so easy. You go there and talk. I have been around since 1979. I know what is.
Else.
Yeah, the people always have expectations. In which country? In which country have you solved the problems? In the United States, in Chicago, Obama's town, there was a disturbance because of poor quality of education. That is the United States of America. There are problems in the public sector. Look, in the private schools, a study has shown that there are better trained teachers in the public schools than in the private schools.
And better paid.
And better paid. And yet the private schools do better.
So we should accept that the quality, you are working on the
You're working on the quality.
You're not there
all
yet.
governments have worked on the quality.
And when we give you the mandate for 2012, 2013,
All governments
you will
have worked on the
continue.
quality.
There's something I must point
Yes.
out about what the Honorable Minister just said.
Yes, madam.
In 2007, 2008, we ordered and for the first time in a long, long time, gave textbooks, enough textbooks to every child, 1-to-1. And the bulk of that was ordered. There was a 25% buffer so that, and in 4 years, this government has not printed one textbook.
Yes, because
One
The
textbook.
Because the curriculum,
you made a promise.
The
that
curriculum changes
2008,
every 4
your
years.
party
The
made a
curriculum-
promise.
Elizabeth, no, let me come here. Those books he's talking about,
Yeah.
you should go and read the CGD report on those books. These are books, if you open a page, the ink.
These are the books that they are using. These are the books that they are still.
You open.
They are
Wait
still
a minute,
giving
wait
out.
a minute.
They
The CGD
have
has a
not
report on these books.
printed
Is
one
it?
book.
Wait, because
in
you
4
do
years.
it every 4 years. You do it in every 4 years. We have currently placed the order. You do it, you change the curriculum every 4 years. You open those books.
So you have placed the order
Yes,
for
you
these
can-
textbooks.
then
But
let
that
me
was a
finish.
promise
Then-
captured in your
Yes, but if
2008
you do it
manifesto.
I did not hear any
every
complaint
4
from the
years.
schools.
Oh,
I did not hear any
read
complaint
the
from the
CGD.
schools.
I'm there. I'm telling you that.
Oh, you are. I haven't-
The donors have refused to give us money because of this. The point that when you met them at the education forum, you know what happens to? They claim so many books. People did not distribute the books. A book, if 1 million books were to go to a particular place, only about 400,000 went. And the auditor stamped everything correct. Please, don't let us go there. JSS students,
not?
Why not go there?
JHS students.
We need to know
Yes,
whether you honored the promise to provide the textbooks for the senior high schools.
I don't think you are getting what I'm talking about.
I do.
JH students are pointing out mistakes in textbooks that were printed. It was a very shoddy work then, unfortunately.
Right.
Therefore, under the new textbook structure, we appointed a person, Professor Anna, to chair and make sure that the books that will be selected are the best. I have a personal view on textbooks. Why should we call some people from outside to write textbook for us? When they are using the same teachers and so on that we are paying, we should be able to write the books. Our curriculum development and research department should be able, together with the Ghana Book Development Council and the University of Winneba, and perhaps the teaching section of Cape Coast University, to be able to write a textbook. The textbook would then suit the trend of our education, you see? And then we shall have corporate property over the textbooks that we, the Ministry of Education, print. Then if a donor thinks that there is some corruption in it, you give the book, go and print and bring us. Don't even give us money at all. So, you see, the sector has its problems. We are, of course, progressively improving quality. This year, the passes at the JHS, at the BEC, was better. It was better than previous year.
Honorable Minister, you have increased,
There
you
was
have,
a reason.
you have upped
There was
the
a
pass-
reason.
the passing-
We've been doing
the
49,
passing mark.
48, 41, and all of a sudden we've done
wait a
99.
minute,
There's a
Wait
reason.
a minute. There is
You've
a
taken
school.
There
it
is a
from
reason
30
for that.
30 to 40.
Listen, there is a school, a Catholic school in
Yeah.
Sunyani, St. James.
Yeah.
They take aggregate 24.
Yeah.
And at the end of it,
They
they
do.
have string A's.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
so what do you have to limit it to 9, and then keep people out? St. James is able to do it. They are taking people with aggregate 24.
Victoria,
and
you have
print
something
them.
to say.
Yes.
Especially about that.
Yes.
We say that students have passed this year.
Yes.
We know the reason.
Yeah.
We cannot be coming from 50, 49%, 46%, because in 2009 it was 50%. In 2010 it was 49. 2011 it was 46%. We know that we have increased the pass mark. And so we shouldn't be saying that students have passed as if students have worked hard, as if we have provided all that we were supposed to have provided. Now I tell you, there's a boy in my house who got 16. And up to today, I'm still struggling to get him a school. Up to today, I am still struggling to get him a school. So to say that,
And there's somebody who is going to.
why am I not
contribute
getting him
with
the
aggregate
school?
39.
as if you don't know what the systems are like.
For that one, I'm not the headmaster.
So to say that we have increased up to
you have
grade 30 and
bastardized
so
the
everybody are
computer
getting school, it's
see,
really not the case. That is not what is happening.
As for that one, I have tried to get somebody with a grade 7 to a particular girls' school.
And
He
you
was,
can't.
he was not taken. So that is a different issue. I have my view on the computerized system, as a matter of fact. But my personal view is not the view. But I have my personal view on that system.
Which
But-
is
but-
what
but
is
the-
what
but
is
the
that?
system
What is
has
that
been
view?
bastardized anyways.
Honorable
Yes.
Yokran,
Yes.
tell me
No,
what
totally
tell me what that
bastardized.
view,
No,
what your view
no,
on
long
the
ago,
computer
The system
selection
has
is.
been bastardized. When it was working properly, people walk up to me and say, "Oh, you know, even me, some woman trader had a kiosk, came to the office and said, "Oh, madam, even me, my child was just called to go to Wesley Girls. I didn't bribe it. Me, who can I bribe?" And her
Many.
child just went
Why is it that
But now-
even me, I cannot get a child there?
because you have bastardized
No,
the system.
You see, don't let us.
Even then,
there.
well, maybe we
Even
shouldn't.
there.
Maybe
Honorable
we shouldn't
Yokran,
because
I'm
even
interested
then-
in
Yes.
hearing your view on the computer placement selection. I mean, you are the minister, so if you have a view,
I
it
don't
should
think
be a view
the
that
system,
we
is
must all
operating
be
as it
interested
should.
in.
I was present at the 30% catchment area
That's part
selection.
of the problem.
No, that is not even part, because they were not even all taken, the catchment area. I was present, I sat there and watched. It was live on television. Subsequently, I don't think it's like what has happened in previous years. Subsequently, you see, systems on paper can be very good. Can be very good. After all, computers are operated also by human beings.
When it started, it
Yes.
certainly was.
Well,
It had credibility.
Well,
Nobody tried to tamper with
But,
it.
you are the
And it
minister.
worked.
You should be
Yes,
fixing
I have
the
not
problem.
been a
And
minister
it
for
worked.
2 years. I have been a minister for less than a year. There. What I'm saying,
And
what
it
I'm
worked.
saying is that she knows. Look, in Ghana, you can have the best of intentions. He knows what I'm talking about. That people will come and put pressure and even get. I, as a minister, have not sent even 5 people to the whole
But,
Ghana.
Madam,
No, I've not done
during
it.
your tenure, the computer placement, there were problems.
There were
also.
problems. There have always been
There were
problems.
problems also.
When the reason it was started, I'll tell you.
It's good.
You
It was a
remember
good
there
idea.
was a survey which said that about corruption index of agencies and such. There was a survey which found that I think the police were top, and then there was GES, Ministry of Education. We were alarmed, and it turned out that when we tried to find out that it had to do with admissions to senior high school. That was where the problem was. This was what pushed us into this computer, that we have to find a way so
and that everybody
people,
agrees
exactly,
was good. It's good.
because it took
Fantastic
a long
idea.
time. We went through it. There were how many meetings, stakeholder meetings, and everybody agreed. And believe me, I can say that definitely the first 2 years, it worked like clockwork. Nobody could complain that, because you could show that those who got it, they went on merit. Now, once you start 30% catchment area,
30% already this year.
Well,
exactly,
Lisbeth,
then you
Lisbeth,
have a
don't
problem.
forget that there
Right,
was
so,
protocol.
Honorable, I
That
need
was
to-
protocol
I need
in your
to-
time.
Honorable,
There is
I
protocol
want to
today.
come back.
I
Honorable,
don't like those
I want to
things.
come back to
I
the
don't like those things.
reversion
Yeah.
of the 4 years to the 3 years. On hindsight, do you think this political move was necessary?
Let me tell you something. And to be in one setting, so far as we are concerned, the debate on 3-4 year is closed.
The debate is closed, and
Closed.
you think it was a necessary decision?
The debate
Very
is closed.
necessary.
Whether necessary or
You think
not.
so?
It was not necessary.
reversion.
The committee,
Because
the committee
big-
did not
big
did not
concerns.
recommend that. I don't want mention
Right.
did not
Well,
recommend
this
that.
is Manifesto Digest, and
Yes.
we'll put this to a truth test a while. Stay with us.
4 years has been immensely beneficial to students in many schools. And I feel very strongly that the government was very wrong, in reverting to the 3 years. It was unwise. They should not have done that, So I think that a new government that comes in should take a look at it, because the 4 years has provided more time for the students who enter senior high schools from the public school system. Why do we call public school Saito? Saito is an insulting term. It's a derogatory term to describe the condition of the schools that are controlled or managed by governments. Infrastructure are not good. Teachers are not as regular as they ought to be. Supervision is not as good. So that you really find that Ghanaians who can afford it are regularly sending their children to fee-paying private schools. It is not good for the country. So there is a division. There is, if you like, a disparity between the schools for the rich and those who can afford it, and the majority of Ghanaians who cannot afford the fee-paying schools. So there is a division in the society. It's not good for development, And the whole idea of the 4-year program is to enable the pupils who enter the senior high schools from the public schools to have more time. And the 4 years have shown that with more time, the students do far better than the 3-year program, which is very rushed. Quoted comments that were made by the late Mr. R.K. Gardner. He was an illustrious Ghanaian economist and international civil servant. And he admonished the country against creating a divided country and therefore an unjust society in the following words. We cannot expect a nation that is half well-to-do, half miserably poor, half educated, and half unskilled and unlettered to enjoy stable social and political conditions. Education really ought to unite. And if the majority of children have access to very good education, you are uniting them.
Welcome back to Manifesto Digest. Remember, you can join us by text 1760, and we're streaming live at stream.myjoyonline.com. And if you are a WhatsApp fan, you can send us a WhatsApp on 0544334722. Welcome back to the studio for the discussions. The minister has had to excuse himself briefly, so he'll join us when he's done with what he has to do. So, ladies, I need to now ask you to walk us through your party's promises for 2012, for which you're seeking the mandate of the people, especially on high school education. I'll start with you, Victoria.
Okay.
PPP.
Thank you again, Stephen. To start with, I say that you look at the directive principles of state policy and you see that Ghanaians are supposed to enjoy free, compulsory, continuous, basic education. We in the PPP say that we need to move the basic level to senior secondary school. So let them enjoy from as far as
same as the MPP is promising?
As MPP is promising SHS, free SHS, and we see something wrong with that. We say that when you allow the child from kindergarten, from primary, from JHS, not to enjoy, who trains that person to be absorbed into SHS? And so it should start from kindergarten. It is assumed that education is free as it is now. But if you have a child who is in the public school, you really want to cross-check that after they pay the exams fee, the textbook fee, the PTA fee, you really want to find out if it is indeed free. It is not. So that is number one. Number two, we are saying that it is not enough to provide free education and you let it there. You need to make it compulsory. And to make it compulsory, you need to enforce it. We have reached a stage where you just cannot say that people should know the importance of education and go to school. You need to enforce it. And it is in the light of enforcing it that we say that we need to deploy education police to ensure that parents take their children to school. So it must be enforced. If it is not enforced, you are just wasting money because there is an amount government invests, and if children don't go to school, you are wasting it, so you need to enforce it. Now, after enforcing it, you are saying that there is somebody who impacts the knowledge. What is it that you need to do to that person? That is why we are saying that teacher training is key. You just cannot do business as usual. I was giving you an earlier example that you go to Korea and before you can teach in an elementary school, you must have been in a teacher university. You must have a degree. What is it that is preventing us to do this? Now, over the years, we have, or our governments have painted the picture to the people that some things are so difficult to do. They are really not as difficult as we seem because the people are expecting something. Then you tell them that, okay, it is not as easy as
but
you
think. But we have educational institutions here which award degrees to teachers.
Yes, Cape Coast does. University of Education does. You ask yourself, is that enough? The point is that the person who is teaching...
No, I want to ask you, is that not enough?
It is not enough.
So your party will bring more universities
We want to upgrade the teacher training into teacher universities. There is something about image. There is something about belonging to something.
How many are you targeting to start with? Your first year in office, how many of the teacher training colleges you are hoping to upgrade?
You start per region. You start one in a region. You start one in a region, from a district. So by the end of the first year...
Do you have a particular number you are looking at?
10.
One
in a region. I'm actually talking 10. I'm actually talking 10 because we have 10 regions.
Right.
Yeah. So you do that, and you ensure that the person is proud of what he's doing because, like I told you, we did a survey. You speak to teachers, and you realize that most of them are teaching either because they know that that is a guaranteed profession, they will get their job once they come out of training school, or they have applied to universities, they were not admitted, and so that was the next way to go. And so that passion to teach, that zeal to teach, is really not there. And if it is not there, that's how come when we were watching what we were watching, we saw a child writing foreign affairs in a certain way. I watched it and it was pathetic. Would you say that there's no teacher in that classroom? There is a reason that child is writing what the child is writing. Now, aside teachers, you want to build complete standardized school compounds. because you can't do without it. And as part of those school compounds, you want to ensure that the teacher who is teaching, especially in the remote area, has his or her accommodation over there.
So your party will do that?
Of course, we have to do it. It is, you see, it is high time we make it look as if it is a campaign promise. It is the right the people must have. It is a people's right.
Right. Madam Elizabeth Ohine.
You want me to talk you through the
yes, please. Your promises for high school. I know the free senior high school. Everybody has heard it by now.
Well, you know something.
You know.
We are happy that it has become an issue that people are talking about. Do you see what I mean? But, you know, it's not the only thing that we are putting on the ground. Don't forget that it was the NPP government that redefined basic school to include kindergarten. Up until then, kindergarten wasn't part of our basic school system. It was not.
But in the 1992 Constitution, what do we have?
No, you can check. Here's a copy.
Anyway,
we did it without having to do a constitutional amendment. We redefined basic school to include 2 years of kindergarten. The idea is this, because everybody knows, particularly about the children who come from disadvantaged homes. If you just go and start primary 1 with other children who come from homes where there are books, you know, if you are from what I call a bookless home, and you go there with the other children, it's like they have tied a big stone to one of your legs already. So what we will do as fast as possible after the 7th of January 2013, when we get into office, inshallah, is that we will redefine basic school to include senior high school. Having done that, that is the first thing. And we will then, the bit, you know, when I heard the young Victoria, sorry, I do beg your pardon.
No, it's okay.
Say that it's not free at the basic school level. Now, it wasn't free because there were all kinds of levies were put, sports, all kinds of things, the culture. That's how capitation grant came into being. It was to take care of those levies that were put by the schools to repair furniture, to sports, culture, those little levies. That's why the capitation grant came in. All that, what needs to be done is to keep an eye, to make sure that they don't add new charges through the back door. So, but at least we do have a mechanism in place. And, you know, the school feeding program. You'll be amazed how many children drop out of school because of food. That, you know, we didn't start the school feeding program simply because somebody, you know, because there was a need for it. Now, it seems to me that when all these interventions work, we will be able to keep children in school from kindergarten up to junior high school. And once that happens, all of them ought to go to senior high school.
But the issue with senior high school, I mean, in free senior high school, in the northern part of this country, that policy has existed, and there've been problems. There've been problems
like
with subventions delaying and students having to go home. So
yes,
when we look at these problems,
I don't know about having to go home. They've had problems.
I mean, there've been instances that students had to go home because there were no subventions.
It's a question of political will.
No, the question I'm asking is that if these problems existed, it was then during the tenure of the MPP. I don't know how the solution went about, but now you're promising it will be rolled out to the rest of the country. Can we cope and hope that subventions will not delay and people all over the country will be sent home?
That's what I'm trying to tell you, that we have political will. If you have political will, it happens. Because, you know, in every government, you have to decide what are your priorities. And education happens to be the priority of an Akufo-Addo government. So that's it. You know, it's simply a matter of political will. That's it.
Well, this is Manifesto Digest, and we'll put the next issue to the truth test. Stay with us.
We think that in the full stream okay, free SHS is going to cost us about 1 billion cedis a year. Generally speaking, that is not an amount of money we cannot afford. So frankly, the money is the least of the problems. The bigger problem is making sure we have a system that will not be hindered by corruption and ineptitude, which can make sure that this thing will happen. Otherwise, they will pay the money and still things will, collapse. Look, NHIS is not working well. There are arguments for and against the system, but that's what we are talking about. It is not a problem of money. It is a problem of management. Then the last and more important, or the most important problem is you need to get people into SHS before they can access free SHS. So those are the issues. If Nanado's team is able to show us, one, how they will find the money, and I'm saying that is the easier thing, then we'll solve that problem. Two, prove that there is a plan that is capable of prosecuting free SHS, because the current plan between the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service is not sufficiently, efficient. And every head of school will tell you. Then the third thing is that show that free SHS is going to benefit the mass of the people, not just the few who end up passing.
Well, welcome back to Manifesto Digest, and Honorable Leo Kran has rejoined us, and thanks for rejoining. We were discussing the promises that the various political parties are making going into the 2012 elections. We've discussed a little of MPP's senior high school, free senior high school, and PPP's.
Yeah. And I'll be done.
Yeah.
That when we speak about education being free at the second cycle level, that includes technical and vocational. It is critical that people don't think that that is not part of it, because that is a critical part of it. We are never going to do anything about this economy unless we do something about technical education in this school. So that I want that
to stay on record.
To stay on record. And science and mathematics. Science and mathematics. And above all, teachers. You know what? Everybody says teachers are important, but somehow we seem to still have teachers who are not happy with their lot. You could say, as far as I know, in fact, apart from Finland, Japan, and I think South Korea, teachers are not happy with their lot in most parts of the world. So, but it is something we've got to work on. We've got to work on it to at least get the teachers to feel that they have a critical part to play. Because otherwise, no matter what any government does, unless we've got teachers who are committed and who are willing to impart knowledge to the next generation, we are sunk.
The other point, Madam, is the issue of cost. I mean, the policy on free senior high school, it's not new. I mean, it was captured in your party's 2004 manifesto. It shows that the party really thought about this before it made it the trump card. Now, looking at the budgetary allocation to education. In 2012, for example, there was a total of roughly 2.8 billion allocated to education. There were no specifics of how much of that was going to go to senior high school education. And then in the 2009 budget, there was also an amount of about 4 million, which was dedicated to basic school education. This is a 2009 budget. And then total, I'm trying to look for the total for that year. And then in 2007 also, there was some amount of money put down for education generally. My question really is, looking at the cost, I mean, your party has come out with a cost which shows that it's going to be 0.1 GDP or 0.3 GDP, whatever it is. Which other sectors are you going to squeeze down in order to honor the promises on free senior high school education?
You know something? As for education, it has to be done. Whatever else gets squeezed.
And that's not a good decision.
It is.
You squeeze,
Believe
let's
me.
say agriculture, you
Believe-
squeeze
no.
health, for example,
Believe
and
me.
pump it all into education.
No. Well, actually, it's been shown that if you have educated, excuse me, people, the things that currently plague us, the issues of sanitation, the issues of respiratory, all those things that plague us, most of them will go down. If you have an educated mother, the chances of your getting repeated diarrheas and malaria and such are very, very, very much reduced.
Likely to come
Exactly.
down.
It's not likely. It's been proven. So as for that one, if you have an educated mother, the health budget comes down immediately. So as for education, we will do it. But what we want to say is this. Up until now, we have been operating on a budget without oil money. We have been operating.
But oil money, we are told, is not as much as we are
Hold
thinking
on.
it is.
Yes, yes, but hold on. But all I'm telling you is that we have been operating thus far without oil money. Now, thanks to President Kufuor's determination,
To discover oil.
yes, to look where it should and to pay attention to it, we now have oil. So we at least have that, which hadn't been available to us before. So we will use it to do something to education. Because, you know, the critical thing is that, as everybody knows, oil is a commodity that gets finished.
But has the
You
NPP
don't know-
considered that you might not be able to make 400 million Ghana cedis on oil like the NDC has
Who's
put
it?
in their manifesto?
Well, they are putting in the manifesto about what we
But
can.
you cannot. I mean,
you
you're
know
target-
something. I wish the NDC will concentrate really on the things they want to do and the things they can't.
Right,
do.
Honourable
As for-
Yokran,
as for the things
tell
that
me,
we
let's
can't
make a
do or
transition
can
to
do,
you.
that's not their
What
problem.
is your
It's our
party's
problem.
promise on senior
It's our problem.
high school education?
Unfortunately, I have had to go out.
Yes, that's fine.
It's a little, I'm a little.
We appreciate
No, we
it.
didn't say anything when you were
We
gone.
appreciate
We
it.
were watching.
Well, okay, it's not. I'm not saying when you are disorganized.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
you can see how
we
it
are-
is. But let me on this senior high school matter.
Yes.
You see, if you want
You
to
said
do,
you make it progressively
yeah, if you want to
free
do something
by
Wait a
2016.
minute. If you want to do something, you must do it properly. Education is so important that no one should be allowed to toy with it.
But your party
Wait a
toyed with it.
minute.
You changed from 3 to 4.
Wait a minute. Allow me to talk, please. This is from Kenya. A newspaper from regrettably free education killed the quality. Kenya. They decided in 2006. In 2003, they decided they should have free primary education. 2003. In 2008, yes, they decided that they should have free day secondary school, not boarding.
But the governance system in Kenya is not the same as Ghana. The
Okay.
levels of corruption in
Wait,
that country
wait.
is nowhere comparable. to
Don't, don't,
that of
don't
Ghana.
talk about corruption in other places. Let's talk about education. We are talking about education. And I wish you shared. So since the introduction of free primary and free day secondary education in 2003, respectively, public schools have experienced bloated enrollment. For example, in public primary schools, enrollment has exponentially increased from 5.9 to 9.4 in 12, despite the fact that the new constitution guarantees blah, 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 blah. No wonder teachers' unions have been agitating for hiring of more teachers to improve the ratio of teachers to pupils. The quality had come down. What we are saying is that first, it is wrong to deny almost 30% of Ghanaians education. At the best, you are not giving them education. So let's try. When they have had it, we have school for everybody, and you have been able to implement the constitutional provision that people should go to school. It's free and compulsory. That's what the constitution says. These people have gone to school side by side with improving access to secondary
So
school.
what are you
then
promising?
we decide which school, which areas should have big subsidy to support education. You see, this country, the problem with it is that you try to level everybody, and it's not working. You go to hospital.
So what are you promising, sir?
Let me come. Or you don't have time. You
No,
let me.
he's running
let
out
me-
of time.
Yeah, let me develop my this thing.
Yes, that's
You
fine.
go to hospital. There's a queue. You go in your suit. You know the doctor. It's your classmate or something. So you walk past the queue and go there, get treatment, and walk away. Are you doing justice to those in the queue? No. If you who want express treatment were to pay, those people there will have access quickly, and perhaps the money that you pay will be used to improve the doctor's remuneration and will do better job. The same thing happens to school. You send your child to a certain school or certain schools in Accra, paying 1,420 Ghana cedis a term for 9 years. He finishes school. Because he went to that school, he gets 8 A's. So he gets the best school to go. Pay 400 cedis a term. You say, no, you can't pay. Is it justice? Meanwhile, there is somebody at Trobodom Secondary School where the children of farmers, peasants, petty traders, and the like, taxi drivers, truck drivers, and go to. He cannot afford to go to a private school.
So you will make high school progressively.
Progressively. So those
by
people
So
2016.
So when?
When is the progressive?
So when? We've been at this since
I
when?
wonder where they got that from. So I said they should to produce the tape. Nobody has come
said
out. Nobody has
So
been
how are you going to implement
so
the progressively
yes, the
free
progressively is
senior
that
high
you
school
start
education?
giving subsidy to those at the bottom.
When do you hope to achieve that?
When do you hope?
But we are giving that's what
But
the
how?
capitation grant
Capitation
is.
is for primary
how do you
basic
hope?
schools. It's
How
not
do you
all.
hope to
Yes,
achieve?
it's
And we are not talking of. We are
Yeah,
talking
but
about
that's where you say
he is talking about the SHS.
How do you hope to achieve that by 2016?
By 2016.
How?
We start from next year.
How?
How? By giving subsidy to the schools in the rural communities where the children from the private schools cannot get access. So otherwise, you are going to subsidize the rich. You are subsidizing the rich.
But
Look,
they've always been subsidies in
I say you are
high
subsidizing.
school education. So you are going to increase the subsidies.
Yes, you have to do social engineering here. Let me tell you, Wesley Girls, they declared 350 vacancies.
You know the situation in the northern region. Subventions
Listen.
are always late.
They declared
And sometimes
it
students have to go
it has
home.
been traditional from the 70s.
So if you
will let me
increase
tell you.
the subsidies,
Tuition-
how can you cope?
350 vacancies. 11,000 plus people applied to go to that school. Out of the 11,000, 9,000 got 8 A's, and they were all from private schools.
But Victoria, you have a reaction.
You went to that school.
You want to
You
react?
see, so
I'm
let
looking
us
at the time and I
we
want
don't
to
have
say
that
what I
time.
want to say
Yes,
before.
yes, please.
well,
Yes.
you said up to 8:30. Not so.
8
No,
o'clock.
no.
And that was so long for you initially.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you have a reaction.
Yes, no, well, the first thing I'd like to say, which is a reaction, but I have my main points I want to say before my time runs out.
Yeah.
For how long are we going to do these things by piecemeal?
The time is now.
We've done a lot of piecemeal in this
So
country.
you say the time is now.
the time is
Now.
now.
You
don't
agree
have
with
the
the
money.
MPP
Exactly.
that
They
the
don't
time
even
is
know.
now.
They don't even know how much
Because
it
we-
costs. They don't even know how much it
the
costs.
money.
Steven, listen.
We-
They don't even know their presidential
Let me tell
candidate
you.
went and stood at
We are
said
saying,
78
let me
million.
tell you,
When
you
he
ask
doesn't-
the question.
he doesn't know the cost.
Let me
Victoria,
tell you.
You asked the
Victoria,
question.
He
Yeah.
doesn't know the cost.
You asked the question
Yes.
that which ministry or which department is going to be squeezed.
Yes.
Corruption is going to be squeezed.
For
Because-
your party,
For
corruption
any
is
government,
Corruption
any
is
government that
corrupt-
wants to do
well,
anything
you
good
didn't
in
say
Ghana,
that. Can I say mine?
please do it.
Corruption has to be squeezed. Because if we deliberately sit down and we are able to budget that in this year, 700 million is going to go to pay judgment debt, then obviously there is something wrong. So you don't do this to people and later come back and say that let's do this
There
thing
was
by
no money.
piecemeal. We push so much
So you
into
tackle
that.
corruption in
You
order
tackle
to
corruption.
claw back some money. Quickly, Madam, I will ask you one last question.
Please
Your
do.
party promised to build 350
Yeah.
classrooms. NDC also promised to build 250?
Yeah.
No,
class-
I want to know.
That was in
I
our
mean,
manifesto.
Where
Theirs
will
was
you,
not
where
in
will
the
you get
manifesto.
the teachers
It was not there.
to man that?
After you have said
but
that, they
you
went
know-
and thought about it.
Oh no.
It was not there. Show me the
Excuse
page.
me.
Show me the page in
Please
your
let me
manifesto.
tell you. If you heard Nana, our candidates evening encounter at the IEA, and this was before your manifesto came out. Before.
As far back
He
as
did-
May, I was the chairman
Madam,
of the manifesto committee.
tell me
Please,
how,
As far back as May,
how
I
you
can
hope-
show you
Your
the draft.
manifesto
I can show
only
you the
came
draft.
out how many weeks ago?
Steven,
What
you took the
happened
word
now?
from me, and now
I'm afraid we'll run out of time, and we would have to wrap up quickly. I was asking how you will
Unfortunately,
get
they don't have
teachers
to
to
take
man the 350 classrooms that you are
There will
promising.
certainly
it was
not
nothing
be
to-
Association of Unemployed Graduates anymore.
They were formed under him, 2007, Association of Unemployed Graduates were formed in 2007.
To go and teach,
Go get training and be teachers. That's
to
the
be
MPP's
trained and
promise.
to teach.
Can I add one word? In 2000, when the late Professor Mills said graduates who didn't have a job could go into teaching. These people, the NPP, they
Sir.
insulted the man. They
Really?
did everything. Yes,
Oh,
it is
that-
there. It is all. You were not in the
That is
country.
not the
You were not
language.
in the country.
That
so
is not the
I'm
kind of
afraid we're
language.
very grateful for
the people
your
who
time and all
insult-
of you
who
who
insult,
made
they
time.
are
This
not on
is
this side of-
Manifesto Digest. My name is Stephen N.T. Thanks very much, Leo
They are
Okran,
not on
Minister
this
for
side.
Education. Elizabeth Ohene is former MPP Minister in charge of Tertiary Education. And thanks very much, Victoria Ama, PPP Director in charge of Research. My name is Stephen N.T. And then I have a couple of text messages quickly, which I would run through before we go. This one from Askia Momori from WA says the NDC has no campaign messages besides attacking Nanado's free education policy. This tells us the NDC will lose the 2012 election to the MPP. And then this one, well, anyway, let's move on. And then this one also says the MPP free education is a good policy, so vote for Nanado and MPP. That is from Ken Taifa. And then this from Olivia Volta Region says, to me, it must be done very simple for us. If not, the man cannot marry the youth. We should learn from this. I don't know what you're referring to. And then Dala Bob Savalugu says that, Mr. Leokran, you are a visionless leader of a minister. This is not fair. I'll move on from there. I beg your pardon. You must be decorous in your messages next time. And then this one says, Mr. Minister, we can't trust you because you have failed to pay trained teachers 2011 batch. We promised to pay you. You promised to pay us with our own. No, we promised to pay you with your own coin, December 7. And this one says from Samuel Sabin says, please kindly ask the NDC minister whether they have paid capitation fee for the past year. I'm a teacher, no money to run basic schools. Shame NDC government. And Kwesi Monu Accra. So have you paid a capitation this year? You have.
No, but teachers claimed you haven't paid. That they
But the
haven't
teachers
been able
claim
to pay
you haven't
register.
paid.
that is where.
These problems will
No,
always
really.
No, wait a minute. You see, there is something happening, which is very. But that's one of the reasons. By
Well,
Monday, you shall know.
Well, Kwesi
Because
Monu
what did I
says
say?
that. Do you admit
Yes,
students before planning of where to accommodate them? Madam Ohene, that's the question goes to you. Ask the minister why for 1 year capitation is not paid. This is Mary from Tamale. And this from Nana says, please ask the minister why children who are entering senior high school delay and yet they pay for full fees. Why teachers' salaries have been deducted. And Tetenyo, being a member of the former government education, mean he was in support for 4 years. I'm afraid that's all we can take. And thanks for making time for Manifesto Digest. My name is Stephen N.T. Join us again next week for another interesting edition of Manifesto Digest. Good night, and the news follows right after.